Welcome everyone to the sixth round post-fight show for Bloody Hell, but for UFC on Fox 25. Chris Weidman versus Kelvin Gastelum, and it's me, Zane Simon, and my co-host Eddie Mercado, here to talk about this night of solid, fun action fights. A lot of decisions, but not much in the way of boring fights. Like the main card was three decisions in a row and a submission, but even the Cummins Villante fight, which was ugly as hell, it's still like both guys got hurt enough to be fun.
Yeah, overall, it was like on paper, you would look at this card and the results, and you're like, oh man, this looks like a shitty card. But it was super competitive in pretty much every bout. We had a couple dominations. And we had a couple one-punch knockouts, which was awesome. And, throwing a slick submission to boot. And really, I mean, the opening bout was the only one that I really didn't care for. That just really kind of just bored the shit out of me. And I'm just like, man. But other than that, they were all fun. And we had a couple wars, some really close split decisions. So all in all, excellent Fox card. Excellent overperforming, overproducing card.
Yeah, I think the only fight I really didn't like was the Sherman Grabowski fight. That was the one for me that was just like, oh God, round 3 of a heavyweight fight is just this your own private hell, really.
It's true, but there were some good takeaways from the fight, which kept it interesting for me at least.
Sure. So yeah, let's just start at the top then. Chris Weidman defeating Kelvin Gastelum with the submission. Huge win for Weidman, something he really needed to get back on top. And, it's a superb technical win as well, a fight that it really highlighted his abilities when he's getting the fight that he needs to have, that he wants to have. And in part 2, I kind of feel like you got to blame Gastelum a little bit there. I realize he's a natural welterweight most likely and undersized, but he also has a long habit of just kind of letting guys do work on him with the expectation that they can't actually hurt him and that he'll be able to athlete his way out of stuff and make things count when they need to and outlast his opponent and fight. He was obviously just kind of letting Chris Weidman fight to get the fight late. And it's just like, you're letting the dude who's way bigger than you and a great athlete get whatever positions he wants. And, suddenly Chris Weidman's hopping on this arm triangle choke and Gastelum had nothing to counter that.
I mean, it actually worked for him in the first round. Gastelum was just kind of eating these straight, meaningless punches, kind of letting Weidman get off and just, be busy out there. And then at the end of the round, Gastelum finally caught him, stepped in with that left hand, dropped him at the end of the round, which I actually enjoyed seeing just because, I'm real curious as to whether or not Chris Weidman can take a punch anymore. And, I mean, it turns out he recovered pretty damn well. I mean, as soon as the bell sounded, he stood right up, went right over to his corner. So that was a bonus. So maybe Weidman isn't as done as we all think he is.
I think the good thing for me to see there is not necessarily even that, he's still obviously like, people that land clean on him are going to hurt him, and that's going to be a problem. But I think probably the good thing there is that he didn't panic. And I think that recently getting hit and getting hurt has led to him panicking, which has led to him gassing out quicker. But it's also like it's kind of hard to tell because Gastelum gave him so few reasons to panic.
Yeah, and he got dropped at the end of the round. So exactly. He had his corner in his face calming him down, like as soon as it happened.
Yeah, so it's a very good win for Weidman. It shows that given opportunities, he still competes at an elite level. He's not just, done out there. But it doesn't lessen the amount of questions I have. It's just sort of like it's that moment to right the ship and stop people talking about, is he about to get cut because he's lost 3 straight fights, and if he loses this one, it's a 4th straight fight. I think he's still highly competitive, but, there's still the kind of holes there that get him dropped hard in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, he might just be transitioning into this top 5 gatekeeper role. Mm-hmm. That just could be the new Chris Weidman. I know he called out Bisping, and it was cool, and it sounded good, but dude, you're coming off of 3 straight losses. Like, you have one post-USADA win, so you're not exactly next in line for the title shot, in my opinion. Even though you got a nice submission, still.
He's lucky that that Musasi is gone from the division right now, because that clears up an avenue, a much better avenue cleared for him. But you still got to assume that Rockhold is going to be in front of him in line if he gets a win over Dave Branch, which it'd be pretty interesting if Dave Branch beats Luke Rockhold.
Honestly, Yoel Romero is still ahead of Chris Weidman.
Yeah, Yoel Romero is still going to be ahead of Chris Weidman if off any kind of win. And, you know, obviously Whitaker is there, and Bisping is still going to be pushing hard for this GSP fight. Whitaker's injured until 2018, it sounds like. So Bisping's probably going to take his time to fight GSP and make that fight happen. And, like, there's a long line of fights that are going to happen before Weidman is the guy to fight Bisping, unless everything falls apart, unless the UFC is just like, well, we can't give it to Romero off a loss, Rockhold loses, Whitaker is not ready due to injury, and they don't want to put on that GSP fight. Then, hey, maybe Weidman becomes the guy, but that's a lot of what ifs to get there.
Yeah, a lot of what ifs, but it's the right division for the what ifs.
Yeah, it is. It's there's something to be said, certainly. I mean, people were asking, like, oh, why does who was it? Somebody getting the next title shot, and now my mind's just drawing a blank. Oh yeah, it was I think it was like Rockhold calling for a title shot, and people were like, oh, well, you know, why would Rockhold get a shot at the belt or something like that? And it's just like, you know, there's a lot to be said for, oh no, it's Cain. That's what it was. Cain Velasquez. Like, why should Cain Velasquez get a shot at the heavyweight title? And it's like, well, there's a lot to be said for being the one guy the champion hasn't fought, and being, like, just coming out of an injury at the exact right time, when suddenly there's nobody at the top of the division that has a great claim to the title shot, and you're the one dude that hasn't fought the champ. That puts you in prime position.
Timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they can make that fight happen in New York with Chris Weidman. Like, that's even more incentive. Like, he's MMA royalty there, basically.
It would be a big deal if they can get him. You know, they obviously Madison Square Garden is going to be a big venue for them, even as much fuckery as the New York State Athletic Commission makes them put up with. So Weidman having that in his back pocket, being one of the most notable fighters in New York, is always going to give him a little more pull. It's also why when people are talking about, like, oh, if he loses 4 straight, is the UFC going to cut him? I was like, I don't think the UFC would ever want to flat out cut Chris Weidman.
No,
they might want to encourage him to retire.
That's what I thought.
Keep him around. Yeah,
I thought maybe he would just say, you know what, that's 4. Like, if he got finished, like 4 straight finishes, I'm at home in Long Island. Like, let's do this right here and just call it. But, you know, he's still in it to win it.
That brings us to a featherweight bout. Darren Elkins picking up a split decision over Dennis Bermudez. And, I mean, all credit to Darren Elkins. He fought a great fight. I didn't think he won that fight. However, Bermudez fought a really dumb fight early and gave away enough of it that it's hard for me. Like, I'm just happy for Elkins. He picked up he fought close enough to get a difficult win in the kind of fight that 3 years ago he would have lost every time.
Bermudez definitely fought a Dennis Bermudez fight. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And Elkins fought an Elkins fight. But Elkins is throwing mad kicks now. Like, he's out here kickboxing people. I love it.
His time at Alpha Male has put a real actual edge on his striking. And the fact that he's always been incredibly tough and durable and has great cardio, like, just having a little extra technique makes him a much harder fighter to face, because he's not going to go away. He's not going to get knocked out. He's not going to quit on you and get tired. You actually have to stay in front of him and pressure him and be technical all fight. And that's not Dennis Bermudez's strong suit.
It was Dennis in the 3rd round.
Yep.
But he should have started with that approach, and he probably would have done a lot better.
He should have started with it. He let Elkins control him way too much early. just kind of didn't expect Elkins to have that ability at all, it felt like. And then, yeah.
Dude, those slams Elkins was getting, I just couldn't believe he was doing that to Dennis Bermudez. Like, who's ragdolling Bermudez like that?
Yeah.
This is 5 straight for Elkins. Like, can we get this man a title shot, please?
Oh, God. No, we can't. But we can all root for him to go as far as he can. Like, I would love to see him, like, beat Cub Swanson or something like that, where it just is something that you don't feel like he has any business doing, but
it has to be Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie versus the Damage. Like, no one's getting finished. Bet the decision all the way in that one.
Yeah, if he could pick up just like one random top 5 win, that would be pretty damn ridiculous.
And it's possible. It's definitely possible.
It is. He's relentless. That brings us down then now to a light heavyweight bout. Patrick Cummins, John Villante. Once again, I feel like John Villante won, technically. I think he hurt Cummins pretty badly. He hurt him badly in round 1, obviously, but I think he hurt him in round 3 too, enough to pick up that round for me. But man, does John Villante love fighting down to any opposition. Like, he had a straight kickboxing match with Patrick Cummins for 15 minutes and may have gotten out kickboxed.
Yeah, that fight was so sloppy, so weird. And yeah, I definitely gave the 3rd round to Villante off of damage alone, even though the volume has to go to Cummins, which is asinine. I can't even believe I'm saying that. But like, Cummins is out there moving his head, like, not very well, but he's at least doing it, and it's effective. And
yeah, when you're not getting knocked down, like he stopped Cummins, he made Cummins stagger, he had him hurt. But when you don't get somebody knocked down, suddenly when you don't knock somebody down, the volume becomes a much bigger aspect. It's much easier for judges to say, well, I don't know, he didn't look that hurt to me and didn't seem that significant, and he landed a lot more, so I'm going to go with the guy who's landing a lot more strikes
and coming forward.
And that's all on Villante. That's all all Cummins' heart, and it's all that loss is all on Villante for not.
Yeah.
And even hearing like Stipe Miocic apparently was saying that Villante starts his camps at like 250. It's just like, there's a reason that you're flagging this bad in your fights, man. And
that's probably it.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta. This isn't just you fight or you train when you have a fight coming up. Like, at this level, you really need to be doing this all the damn time if you want to be going 5-minute rounds. Otherwise, I mean, you're going to get petered out and you're going to get hurt at that division. Like, those guys hit really hard.
Yep. All right, and that brings us to a bantamweight bout. Jimmy Rivera, Thomas Almeida. Now, I'm going to admit, I kind of scored. I mean, I picked Rivera to win it. I kind of scored this fight for Almeida at the end of the day.
Almeida came back really, really strong. Really, really strong, to the point where I can't even, like, if someone scored it for Almeida, that's fine with me. The judges saw it unanimously, but I mean, let's be honest. Almeida was definitely putting some hands on Rivera there down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, Rivera had he had a takedown. He had some control in round 3. He did well to mix it up and make it a fight. But at the end of the day, that 3rd round felt like Thomas Almeida doing the damage and Rivera working just to stay in the fight and to like not get hurt. And at that point, I got to give that to Almeida. I know it's a push. It's a tough one. I would even have been fine with a draw, with Rivera getting a 10-8 round 1 and Almeida picking up the last 2 rounds. But it's one of those fights that, it sucks for Almeida on this loss, because it's honestly, it gives me more hope for him as a contender, in that he was able to rally back and fight through the kind of adversity he's had to fight through against lower level opposition, against somebody who's really gunning for a title shot.
Yeah, it definitely boosted the stock of Almeida, 100%. And if not even throw him up towards the top 5. Like I can see him leapfrogging over a couple dudes. And Rivera, I doubt he'll get a title shot off of this, honestly.
No, I don't think he's going to get a title shot off this win. Nah.
If he would have gotten that finish in the first, maybe, but he just wasn't able to close the show.
Yeah, he couldn't close the show. And when you got Lineker and you've got Dodson and you've got a whole crop of good bantamweights charging up that division. You've got Dominic Cruz, who's gonna wants a rematch with Garbrandt for a title fight. You've got Dillashaw and Garbrandt ready to go. He's not at the point where you would say, oh, he's going to be the next guy to get it. It would be it would be that Weidman scenario, except obviously Rivera's got a bunch of wins behind him, but it would be a bunch of people would have to kind of fall apart for Rivera to be the one right now.
Yeah, he might need one more fight. A fight with the top 5 guy.
He gets a fight. He gets a big win over a top 5 guy, then absolutely he's right there. But until then, he's just another very good bantamweight in the top 10, waiting for more fights.
He's solid, man. He's pretty solid.
It was a fun fight. I loved it. It was, it was better than I expected because I expected Almeida to get knocked out. I expected him to not be able to rally back, and seeing him rally back was a lot of fun. That brings us to a welterweight bout: Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos versus Lyman Good.
Zane, really fast. If that fight was 5 rounds, you think Almeida takes it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The way that it was going, I think Almeida looked fresh. He was stuffing takedowns and scrambling well late in the fight. Even when Rivera would get him down, Almeida was scrambling out, and Almeida looked like he was ready to keep making that fight dangerous for Rivera. And Rivera looked more like he was just trying to get to the end of the fight.
That's fair. Okay, I was just curious.
All right, welterweight bout now: Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, Lyman Good. Really solid win for Zaleski, honestly. Good. I figured his jab and his work behind his jab would be enough to get him a win, but Zaleski was creative, and he fights a lot harder in round 3s than you would expect him to. Yeah,
that dude digs deep like nobody else. Like, it's insane. I can't think of anyone who just like reaches inside of themselves and just keeps coming forward as if their life literally depends on it. I mean, this dude is winging punches late into the 3rd round. Like, no fucks given, just 100% coming at you. And that is really tough to deal with, especially when you think you have someone on the ropes, someone backing up, and then they just start coming at you with really heavy 2 pieces. I mean, that's tough to deal with. I mean, he throws with really terrible intentions, and I think he did enough to win the fight. And more importantly, he didn't get discouraged when he was hitting good with everything, and it wasn't even phasing him.
Yeah, I felt that was actually, I mean, that was the more the narrative to me, is that Good did get discouraged as well. Like, Zaleski wasn't going away, and it was like in round 3, Good's corner being like, go get yourself knocked out, basically. And he didn't want to. Like, he was just like, no, I don't want to stand in front of this dude and eat all these shots. And Zaleski did. Zaleski was like, shit, no, of course, let's go, come on.
And it won him the fight.
Yeah, won him a good, contentious decision, but a good decision in my eyes. That brings us to a middleweight bout: Eric Anders defeating Rafael Natal.
Yes. I absolutely love this. What an epic debut.
Yeah.
Now that I have this little platform here, I just have to say this for the record. I cannot stand watching Natal fight. I have never enjoyed it. In fact, this is a John Fitch syndrome here. It's like the only time I've ever enjoyed his fights is when he's getting murdered. And so, naturally I just began to root against him, because he's only exciting when he's losing. Case in point, this right here. He came out, he got waxed. I was a happy camper. So, awesome win. Awesome win here for Anders.
I was glad. Looking at his footage before, he seemed a little clunky. He seemed powerful and big, but like he just would not be fluid enough to catch an experienced vet like Natal that easily. Or I thought, he would get Natal down, maybe hurt him, and then have to chase him on the ground and grapple with him. And he was just too massive and too much of a beast for Natal to deal with at all. So that to me is a great thing to see, because that, even without Anders being an incredibly polished fighter, that kind of physicality, that kind of toughness, that kind of brute strength is just going to carry him a long way in that division.
And I believe he has the work ethic behind all of that from his football experience to really be putting in the time to sharpen those tools to add to the athleticism. So he might be something to watch here.
Yeah, no question that a dude who was able to get to like being a top level college football player has the work ethic to apply himself at another sport.
Yeah.
And that power translates for him. So I'm excited to see it. Definitely. Great debut for him. And while probably isn't it shouldn't catapult him straight into the top 15. It'll probably get him a hard next fight too. It's going to get him somebody who's got some experience in that division, and maybe like a Trevor Smith or somebody like that.
Oh man, I feel bad for Hot Sauce if that's the case.
Well, those would be the kind of dudes that would probably be next on the list.
Yeah.
Before that, welterweight bout: Alex Oliveira, Ryan LaFlare. This, I talked about it with Connor before this. And I think we both kind of felt like this was the real testing point for, is Alex Oliveira a top 15 level fighter at welterweight and not just a good action fighter? And it feels like he really passed that test here. LaFlare is tough. He's big. He's durable. He is a very heavy wrestler and grappler. And it was all about, can Oliveira fight smart enough to stay out of the clinch? Because his last few fights, he's been going into the clinch relentlessly. And he couldn't in round one, but in round two, it was all distance management and careful striking and big knockout for his trouble.
Cowboy's dangerous. He's dangerous anywhere. He's dangerous on the feet. He can be dangerous on the ground with submissions. He can grind on people. So he's definitely showing a well-rounded game that is necessary to break into the top of the welterweight division. And on top of that, he just showed to us that he has one-punch knockout power. And that is crucial at welterweight, and that will get him very far. I'm like itching to see him fight Santiago Ponzinibbio now. I am like craving that fight now.
That would be great. I mean, that's the first stoppage loss of LaFlare's career and only the second loss of his career overall. So
and that was clean. That was a clean, just one punch, one and done, and he was out. That was wild.
I'll need to see more from Oliveira to be convinced that he's on his way to being a title contender. I think he's still, getting dominated for a round of just like grappling still leaves me with a lot of questions. But the fact is, he's definitely he's in the elite level of that division with his aggression and his power and his ability to manage those things well and be a capable fighter everywhere.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, there's really a really tough run of grapplers he has to leapfrog to get to that top 10.
Yeah.
Like, some really hardcore wrestlers that don't fuck around. Who can easily hold him down for 3 rounds if he can't get his strikes off. But definitely an awesome win for him. LaFlare, who knows? He's hardly active. Who knows what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, for LaFlare at 33, it kind of feels like, as successful as he's been, he's also been around since 2008. He's 9 years into his career now, and it's one of those things where it felt like every wall he hits is going to be an especially hard wall to bounce back and try and claw his way up the top 15, because it's not like he's the kind of personality that the UFC was like, oh no, this is superstar. We want Ryan LaFlare as a big name on all our cards. So it likely sends him back into the meat of the welterweight division, which is only going to get harder to climb through.
Yeah, especially when you're inactive.
Yep. That brings us to a heavyweight bout. Chase Sherman, Damian Grabowski. Um, Sherman just little tougher, little more active,
A little smarter.
smarter, able to keep his volume on Grabowski and wade through shots and all that. Not an especially great fight, but Sherman continues to prove that he's big enough and tough enough and active enough to be a good heavyweight. It's just all about actually refining his technical game. Him showing takedown defense was nice. I don't think this is the closest thing he's ever faced to a good wrestler, ever.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. And I thought he did pretty damn decent. I think he showed up relatively sharp and really in shape. And he controlled the striking right off the bat, and he did it for the entire fight. And this was his first decision win. So it was nice to see him to be able to control a fight for the entire 15 minutes. And I mean, there were definitely moments where he was getting tagged flush. Like he was getting hit really clean. But he was still a lot more smarter than we've seen him in the past. A real more technical approach. So, you know, fun action fighter here.
I do worry that that he's shown a distinct lack of power for heavyweight rising up the ranks, which because like Grabowski is supposedly, you know, he's been one of the chinniest heavyweights in recent acquisition, and Sherman couldn't really hurt him badly enough to make it a major story of that fight. Grabowski's chin never really seemed like the tilting point. So
no, it wasn't. But you know, to be fair, Sherman does have the volume. He is out there throwing a lot of volume. So I mean, I guess I can overlook a little bit of the power, but as you fight tougher guys, man, you really, in heavyweight especially, you have to thump. You have to be a thumper.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, maybe that's something that'll develop as he goes on and his footwork improves and his movement improves. Maybe it's just a case of sitting down on his strikes better, things like that. But we'll see. That brings us to a featherweight bout. Jeremy Kennedy, Kyle Boschnak on the Fight Pass prelims. Kennedy just putting on a strong wrestling performance on Boschnak. I still have my worries about Kennedy's striking and his athleticism. Late in that fight, Boschnak landed some big shots on him. And Kennedy just has this stiffness to him when he strikes, where even when it looks like he's got a little of that Patrick Cummins to him, where even though it looks like he's being competent, when he gets hit, it just seems to be really hard. Like it just really hurts him.
Yeah, that third round was not a good look at all. But you know what? I still scored it for him.
Yeah, me too.
as crazy as that sounds. But there are some holes that he needs to tighten up. But, man, it's really nice that he can fall back on his wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a good, complicated technical wrestling game, good top ride, throws good ground and pound, stuff like that. It'll be hard going if his striking doesn't improve in that division and he starts fighting better guys who can stop his wrestling attack. But at the moment, it's getting him through the lower levels of the division, which is good to see.
And I like that he called out Gray Maynard in his post-fight interview. Like, that's actually excellent. Like, someone who might be able to stop your takedown and make you, show something else.
Yeah, it's a good look. It's definitely it's a good call out. I think it's a fight he can win.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to pick Gray at all these days.
Yeah, that fight he had with Teruto Ishihara, even as a win, was pretty ugly.
I honestly would rather see him fight Shane Burgos, but that's just me.
Yeah. That would be Shane Burgos. I don't know. That would be. I would not put a lot of stock on Kennedy for that.
No. Just I want to see someone that can stuff his takedown and make him strike, and that's Burgos.
Yeah, it is. It would be a hell of a challenge for Kennedy at this point in his career. I'd like to see him against somebody like, maybe like Makwan Amirkhani. Although I know Amirkhani's coming off a loss. Somebody that can wrestle well and is a good athlete and is also not a great striker. So you'd make it like really Kennedy having to show something more than just his wrestling game potentially. Maybe Arnold Allen.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good one. Or
yeah,
like
Allen
Ryan
picked
Hall.
up
What about
wins.
Ryan Hall? What's he doing?
Yeah, Ryan Hall would be a fascinating one. I don't know how often Ryan Hall's going to fight for the UFC, but
Yeah.
he's out there, and he's putting him against guys who really want to wrestle him would be hilarious. That brings us to a bantamweight bout: Marlon Vera, Brian Kelleher, and Vera. Vera keeps sticking around. I keep like he's not a pretty fighter, and this fight doesn't tell us anything about whether he's improved or not. Really, like he's always been a guy who knows how to go for fun finishing moments, who knows how to be flashy, throw a big kick, throw up a sub attempt, get his fingers in your gloves like he did against Davy Grant. But he's also, he seems big. He's big and he's tough. And it seems like he's just slowly picking up a few more tricks. And Kelleher submissions have been his Achilles heel in the past. And he fell right into one.
Yeah, I feel like Cheeto has this drunken master kind of style where it's like he's out there and he almost looks gassed, but he just finds a way to win. Like this is 3 straight for him. Like oddly enough, 2 straight finishes. And what's crazy to me is how he was using the Kimura to fend off the takedown, and it kind of just stuck a little too nicely. And he was like, "Well, shit, I'll just kind of stick with it," and took it to the ground. And there was like this split second where it was like Cheeto was either going to win by some armbar submission transition or Kelleher was just going to take over the fight.
Yep.
And sure as shit, Cheeto, snagged the armbar, got the win, and he survived. He made it out of there. Like a lot of people weren't picking him to win
No,
this one.
it was a terrible style matchup. An aggressive wrestle boxer who goes after people, creates a lot of offense, pressures well, against somebody in Vera who has a habit of just kind of laying with his back against the cage and fighting, just to pick off singular moments and not win rounds. It was a fight made for him to lose. And him winning it, it's a sign that Vera may be one of those dudes that just, without ever really seeming like he's made a big leap, will just sort of get better and better over time. And suddenly you'll be looking at him as like a top 10 fighter down the road. And you're like, how the hell?
I mean, he is only 24 years old.
Exactly. So. He's got the time. He's got the time to make it happen. And he's got the durability too. He's never been finished yet. So it's not as though he's getting broken out there,
Yeah, he's tough as shit. And he got heart for days, and his story is awesome.
Yeah. I'm always happy to see him win for that. That brings us to a heavyweight bout. Junior Albini knocking out Timothy Johnson, knocking out your boy.
That's my dude, man. I like Timothy Johnson. He's a fun guy. The mustaches are always epic, but he got caught here. He just got caught. He got caught with a fast, beautiful combination, knee to the gut. I think it was a left hook and then a right hand, and it was really beautiful. So awesome debut for Albini. I mean that's exactly what heavyweights need is just more. We just need more of whatever that might be.
Yeah, I have this fear that, I don't know if it's a fear, but I have this thought about Timothy Johnson that he may unfortunately, especially that loss to Volkov, may have unfortunately opened up this gateway to him slowly becoming a worse version of himself. In that, like, he kind of got shown, like, you're not that great a striker. You need to add more parts to your game. And so he's being not a great striker. Like, he's working on his striking, and he's still not a great striker, but he's just doing it more.
Right, yeah.
And now against Albini, he's getting caught. And he's getting caught out doing something that he's not great at because he knows he needs to do more to win fights.
Oh, man. It's true, man. It's true.
Yeah.
I want him to do so well, but I think he just has a ceiling. He's just kind of this guy that bats 500 in the UFC. He'll win every other fight, and he'll definitely be tough, and he might be a gatekeeper to the top 15.
Yeah, he's a big, tough, strong dude, hits hard. It's just, without being a dominant takedown artist, which he's not, and without being a really comfortable striker, which he's very obviously not, then his window of control in a fight, of winning a fight, is really all about, can he have you up against the fence and create enough offense there to win rounds?
Yeah, or happen to connect in a flurry in the middle of the slop.
Yep. And that's a tough, that's a narrow margin to work in. So
yeah, but huge win for Albini though.
Yeah.
Knocking out someone that's never been knocked out. So,
and I like the idea that it might jump him right up into the mix in that division, just because that division it needs as many people to leapfrog as quickly as they can to pick dudes off. I mean, there's no reason that Travis Brown losing like 5 straight fights should only be like 11 now or whatever, like 14.
Yeah, he shouldn't be there at all.
Like, there's just not enough guys are having to struggle from the bottom. UFC signed, like, they've got like 50 heavyweights now. And so all these young heavyweights are having to fight each other to get up to the top, and they're all ending up like 2-3 or 3-2. And they're picking each other off when the guys up above them, some of them are not more competitive fighters.
No, it's like they're names, and the UFC is just like protecting the name value.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see Albini jump in there. Hopefully he gets a good, fun fight after this to follow up with.
Hopefully Timothy Johnson gets Derek Lewis like he called for. They're both coming off losses now. Why not?
That's true. That would sort of be like failing upward for Johnson, but I like the call out.
Yeah, for sure. Ballsy call out.
Featherweight bout before that, Shane Burgos, Godofredo Pepe. Good win for Burgos. Looked damn pretty. Just beat the pants off Pepe. I'm a little surprised he didn't finish him, but Burgos is not a high volume fighter. He's always going to be like, pick your spots, stay safe, stay collected, land the big shot when it's there. And he still was just totally dominant in this fight.
It was beautiful. His pressure is so special. The way he moves forward. He does it in a way that it makes you uncomfortable to the point where you feel like you have to strike. And he knows you're going to strike. So then he makes you miss and then returns with a super, super hard punch. And that's really hard to deal with. And he can stop your takedown.
Yep.
I mean, it reminds me of Chuck Liddell in a way, like how he can just, like, what you're going to get. Like, you're going to have to come out and throw hands with this guy, like, period. You could try to take him down, but
he didn't rake Pepe's eyes enough for me to feel like the Chuck comparison really sticks. But no, I feel it.
Yeah, but it's and I mean, I never ever compare anyone to Chuck Liddell.
No,
that's just kind of a vibe I'm getting from Shane Burgos, man. You like beating him, you're gonna have to go out there and just be the better boxer or brawl him and hurt him to put him away. Or otherwise,
it'll be interesting to see him face a really top-flight wrestler, a really elite-level top-flight wrestler who can make him fight that off for prolonged exchanges. But otherwise, it's going to have to be a very, Connor and I were talking about this before. The kind of fighters that beat Burgos are either going to be elite wrestlers or it's going to be guys that can stay outside at range and pick him off for his chasing footwork and do so all fight. Somebody like Yair Rodriguez, who can throw a whole bunch of high octane range weapons over and over all fight. That would be the kind of thing that Burgos still needs to prove himself again, because he ate a lot of big right hands, even against Pepe, who was just swinging wild.
Bless his heart, though. Bless his heart. Pepe went for it, man. It's like he threw all technique out the window there at the end. He's like, well, fuck it, man. Let's just stand here and throw and see what happens. Like, I respect it. I admire it.
Oh, yeah.
And he went out like a champ,
I love Pepe. He's got a great, fun style. Like, I never see Pepe on a card and I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that fight. I would watch him fight a plastic bag in the middle of the stadium.
Yeah, he's super fun.
And that brings us to a lightweight bout. Chris Wade, Frankie Perez. I thought it was a decent enough back and forth lightweight fight, but it also kind of shows why neither guy has, why both guys who looked like decent prospects coming in and neither of them why neither of them have excelled. Like, there's just a lack of that next athletic step and the kind of damage that can take over a fight to make either guy a really strong rising contender in the lightweight division.
Yeah, I don't think there was any damage being dished out in that fight. Like, none, just a whole bunch of control and grappling and scrambling, and like that's cool and all, but not a good way to kick off the fight. The fight pass card.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it's just like I say. It just kind of says Wade's got good scrambles. He's good at recapturing momentum when somebody takes it from him, but he's just also not the most elite athlete, and he's not a really damaging fighter. So he's going to let guys hang out in fights with him a long time, and against better athletes, against guys who can hang with his wrestling game, that's always going to be a big problem for him.
Yeah, much need to win, though. He was coming off of 2 losses, so at least he's back in the win column.
And for Perez, you got to kind of feel bad for a guy coming back, coming out of retirement, an early retirement, and then coming in just for 2 straight losses.
Yeah, that's not a good look. That's definitely not a good look.
But he has the problem that I think is mostly his style is just not, he's also not the world's best athlete, and his style is not made to recapture momentum. If things are going poorly for him, if he's down 2 rounds in a fight, he does not have the kind of, he can hit with some power. He's not a bad wrestler or a bad grappler, but he's never going to, if he's not knocking somebody out with 1 punch, he's not going to take over a round with the way he produces offense.
Yeah, it's true. And
yeah, it's just
that makes he's 1 and 3 in the UFC. So his future is looking a little grim.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this ended his UFC run, and given that he's been willing to retire before, it might end his MMA career if he just doesn't want to screw around with fighting for other organizations.
Yeah.
Back to the top of the card, though. Chris Weidman, Kelvin Gastelum, really enjoyable fight. Weidman is a really fun fighter when he gets to perform the way he wants to. When he gets an opportunity to produce offense the way he wants to. I love watching Weidman fight. So it was great to see that again. Elkins Bermudez was fun. Cummins Villante was sloppy as shit, but still
fun.
Still fun. And Rivera Almeida was fun. So a good, enjoyable end of the night. And then you got a couple of knockouts on the undercard, and it's just a fun fight night.
All in all, yeah, solid card. A lot more fun than it looks like on paper.
Yep. On that note, you can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find both of us over at BuddyElbow.com. Give us a like, a thumbs up on YouTube. That is where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM, for all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, news, analysis, all that good stuff. We will be right back this week for UFC 214, Cormier versus Jones 2, with all of our normal If I Did It, Care Don't Care, Knuckle Up, Heavy Hands, Vivisection, all that good stuff. So stay tuned up for all that, and we will see you soon.